Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Excellent. Well, it's nice to hear your voice as usual. What have you got in your hand? Are you sipping on something?
I have got a Deschutes Inversion IPA.
Nice.
Very nice local, well, not really local, but from Bend. You know, they're a big brewery in Bend.
Right.
And what have you got?
I have got an Upslope Oatmeal Stout.
All right.
Yeah.
How's the coronavirus lockdown treating you and your enterprise?
Well, how's it treating us? Badly, I guess, at the moment. I mean, obviously everyone's having to deal with it, but I'm just glad that we've got this line open up where distributors are helping us small exhibitors out by showing movies, you know. So, in fact, I wanted to tell you that there's a couple on the International Film Series site that might be of interest to you. There's a one called The Dog Doc, which is a documentary about the hardships and joy of being a veterinarian.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if have you already seen the latest film by Ken Loach, Sorry We Missed You?
No, and in fact, I saw that was available. You know, the Guild in Albuquerque were doing a 50-50 split with the distributor on the Ken Loach film. So I nearly did it. I nearly gave the money to the Guild, but I'll give it to the IFS instead.
You know, they're good as well, and obviously that's the thing about this particular endeavor is that people who are listening to this, if you want to help out some exhibitors, independent exhibitors, art house exhibitors, you can go to their respective websites. So like here in Boulder, you can go to the Bodecker website and see a lot of the same movies that are being made available to the IFS. And if you would prefer to, you know, split your money with Bodecker, do that. If you're a fan of the IFS, go to the IFS site. If you're a fan of the Loft in Tucson, go there.
I'm sure they're doing the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, did you talk to Todd about joining us for talking about the booksellers next week?
Yes, she's going to look. We're going to look at the booksellers tonight. Last night was Earth Day, and we watched this movie that a friend of ours, Todd Darling, had made, a film called Occupy the Farm, which I think played in Boulder at the Food Film Festival. Right.
How was that?
It's actually very good. Yeah, we hadn't seen it, and it's very good. It's about, you know, these farm activists taking on the might of the University of Berkeley, and it's good. Yeah. Well, the University of California at Berkeley. It's very good. It was an impressive documentary, very well told, and good characters. And boy, in the academia side of it, you know all those characters.
Right. Well, I think we. Do you want to let me try to get Michael Casey on the line, and we'll go right into.
Yeah, let's try and get Michael, and then we can talk about this movie, which we have not discussed previously.
Well, I think we've gave it a. You discussed it a little bit, but now we've all seen it.
I thought it was very good, but I'd only seen it once, and I've seen it twice, so I can't wait to hear what you guys think of it.
All right. Well, I'm going to give him a call here, and then I'm going to merge Michael Casey, who is the Boulder film critic as well as beer critic. He talked with us last week. So for the people listening, it is Thursday, April 24th. Alex Cox and myself, Pablo Kielseth, we have our friend Michael Casey joining us. We're all talking remotely on merged calls via cell phone, so please excuse if the quality isn't great. We are all here to talk about DEERSKIN from French director, writer, editor. I think he just does everything. He's also a composer and cinematographer. Quentin, and I'm not sure how to, Michael, do you know how to say is it Dupieux?
That's how I pronounced it on the radio today, and I hope it's right, because if it's not, I look like an idiot.
Okay.
Oh, no, you must be right then.
Well, I'm bad with French, but anyway, He's a French director. He's in his mid-40s. He got to start doing music videos. We've actually, at the International Film Series here in Boulder, Colorado, we've screened 3 of his films on the big screen. Rubber from 2010, Wrong from 2012, and Reality from 2014. And the reason that we've decided to discuss his latest film, DEERSKIN, is because next week on Friday, May 1st, IFS customers, or as we just mentioned, pretty much any art house theater supporters who want to support their local art houses, can go to the website for their respective art house theater, and there they can check out his latest film, DEERSKIN, which stars Jean Dujardin, who most IFS customers will recognize for his roles in OSS 117, Cairo, Nest of Spies, as well as the offshoots and sequels from that. And, of course, The Artist, which won 5 Oscars and played at the Telluride Film Festival. But I just, to back up a little bit, if you're not already familiar with Dupieux's work, you're in for a treat, especially if you like dark and absurdist humor. Of course, people who saw Rubber, a comedic horror story about a killer tire, knew what they were getting into from the bare premise of that alone. With DEERSKIN, I think it might be fair to say that it's a similarly comedic horror story about a killer coat. But saying anything more than that would spoil the fun. And it's a great film about filmmaking. Wouldn't you agree, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think it's its real genius is it's just so original. You know, you have never seen a film that's quite like it. And I haven't seen his other 3 films, so I'm not familiar with his oeuvre. But it seemed to me to be totally original. And also, yeah, it has some very funny and ironic jokes on the stupidity and naivete and ghoulishness that surrounds the film industry, even though that's only really peripheral to the story of the killer coat.
You know, I couldn't help but notice or think about the fact that, Alex, I think you've got a very colorful coat as well, don't you? There's a story with your coat, right?
Well, I have a Pendleton coat that was given to me by my next door neighbor because he got too big to wear it, but it hasn't spoken to me yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still okay. Hey, Mike, but what did you think, Michael?
Well, speaking of the coat, I think one of the aspects I really liked about this is that the coat really doesn't look very good on him. In fact, it's a bit small on him, and it really kind of accentuates his middle section, his pouch. You know, it kind of undercuts like the coolness that he thinks he's going through. But I don't think I liked this movie as much as I thought I was going to watching it, but I did like, without giving away too much of the character's intentions, that if this is a movie about filmmaking, it's about the misdirection of who actually is the filmmaker or who's actually telling the story in a film.
Yeah, because you can say there's multiple narratives, because I mean, there's he's making a movie. He's also got a sidekick who then becomes more than just a sidekick, and
who's kind of pushing the story in the direction that they want to see the story go.
Yeah, and she's a fan of like bloodthirsty American kind of schlock movies and stuff, and so she wants to see it go in that direction, you know. So, but I mustn't say any more because that'll spoil the originality and weirdness of it all.
Yes, weird is a great way to describe this movie. Did it feel abrupt to Pablo or Alex? Did it feel abrupt to either one of you? I felt like this movie either was 2 minutes too long or 20 minutes too short.
I thought it was just right, frankly. I think, but the thing is, once again, I think if you're sort of used to what he's done in the past, you buy into absurdism right off the bat. And once you've bought into the fact that you've entered an absurdist universe, anything goes. And in this particular case, I think the thing that's nice is that the anything that goes is actually fun, and it's got unexpected moments of effective humor, I thought. So I really enjoyed
funny
it.
things in it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the locations too are very interesting because it's this rural France and there's these beautiful mountains up there, and yet it's not very beautiful. it's not very nice even, and the room that he rents, oh my God, I've been in that room, with the double doors, and you go in and there's like a horrible shower in the corner of the room with a railing, and it's really quite terrifying in some ways, and yet banal.
Yeah.
And very brown.
Alex, I got to ask, you said you were watching this with, your wife, Todd, and she stopped watching at a certain point. I was curious, at what point did she stop?
She, it's interesting because she kind of gives up on films when the plot part happens, usually, unless the plot's very good. Because she gave up on the Brazilian film right around when the plot kicked in.
Which was at the hour mark.
Yeah, about the hour mark. And I kind of agree with her on that one because I thought the first hour of the Brazilian film was the best part. And then when you get into the plot of the Most Dangerous Game and stuff, it became a bit more schematic.
Yeah.
So, but I liked this all the way through, even though it does descend into a sort of generic storytelling in the second half. I still found it so entertaining.
I thought, but it had these interesting moments. I think this doesn't spoil anything to say that the protagonist has a fringed, deerskin coat, and he doesn't want anyone else to have jackets. And so there's this one very amusing moment where I thought, oh, the guy who's helping him with the bulldozer, he's going to get it. And then he walks out and you realize he's got a vest. And I was wondering, okay, is that going to make the cut or not? Does it fall into the danger zone to wear, a down vest? And thankfully it doesn't in this case. So.
Good point. No, because it doesn't have sleeves. So, that guy survived.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found very interesting, though, obviously when you see a film that's kind of low budget, independent, there's often a lot of credits at the beginning. There's a lot of financing entities that have put a little bit of money in. And there must be like 20 credits at the beginning of the film. There's 2 different credits for different branches of Arte. And there's Canal Plus, of course, and then at the end of the film, when they roll the credits, there's a crew of like way over 100 people worked on it. And you think like, wow, it takes so many French filmmakers to make an entirely naturalistic, normal-looking story about 2 characters.
It actually felt, if you weren't paying attention to the credits, and this I think is in support of the filmmaking here, but it actually felt like it could have been done by a skeleton crew. And I say that in a good way. Yeah,
the kind of imaginary crew that he's talking about when he's making up his history as a filmmaker. I'm thinking you could make this with 3 or 4 people. But right. No, they had like fans galore and trucks and gaffers and everything you could wish for. It's like a big movie which then conceals itself in smallness, which is interesting.
It's under 90 minutes, and it went, and I got sucked into the spell of it, and it went by lickety-split, and it was fun. Of course, as a comedic horror film, it will have a few horror tropes, but I think it was all still in good fun.
Oh, it's very interesting as a psychological portrait and as a moral critique and stuff. Yeah, no, it's good. It has a lot of merit, I think. Although, thinking about what Michael said, yeah, I could definitely see cutting 2 more minutes out of it. I wouldn't have made it any longer, but you could probably cut a couple more minutes out, make it 88 or 86 minutes.
Michael, we didn't ask you what you were drinking tonight.
Let's see. I've got the Night Warden. It's a barrel-aged stout from Avery. It's quite delicious.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, they make some good stuff. Roasty, kind of vanilla and nice.
How are you getting your beers during this time of self-quarantining?
Well, some of them are sent to me because that's my job. Then, the liquor stores are still open. So
yeah,
I'm having Hazel's deliver. So
okay,
yeah.
The only thing we've had delivered to us is pizza, but the beer I'm still going out and finding because I like to look and be wishy-washy and then stand in front of a case for 20 minutes. And have 5 or 6 people ask me, "Do you need any help?" And me answering no because they don't have the kind of help that I actually need. So it's a whole process.
Do you find when you're in the liquor store, are people maintaining their 6 feet distances? Do they have their face masks on? What's it like out there?
It's hit and miss. There are some times where you walk into the liquor store is about the same as a grocery store. You walk around and there's some people who are walking around in shorts and flip flops, no gloves, no mask, standing as close to you as humanly possible. And then there's the other people who are like very, very patiently waiting for you to move so that they can go in and get their thing. And I appreciate that. That's I feel like that's the right way to go. Yeah. But no, we got all types down here.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're in Denver. I'm here in Boulder, which is a university town, and it seems like most of the college kids in those shared spaces seem to be the ones that aren't wearing the face masks.
Well, I'll tell you that where I live down here, I live on the west side of town, and I'm in a weird kind of triangle of Lakewood, Golden, Wheat Ridge. So I could go 10 minutes in one direction and I could be on Skid Row, and I go 10 minutes in the other direction and I'm with the hoity-toity elites. And if I go to the King Soopers on Colfax, everyone is kind of they're maintaining their space. They're on their behavior. Everyone seems to be kind of in this together, even though you are pulling from a more a lower echelon on the tax bracket.
Yeah.
If you go to the fancy King Soopers that is surrounded by wealthy white elites, they are the ones without the masks. They are the ones without the gloves, and they're the ones who are upset that things are not available or that no one will stand close to them when they ask for help. And that's where I'm finding that more often.
Interesting.
So don't mess with the wealthy white peoples, I guess, what your takeaway here.
Yeah, Oregon, they're mostly good people. Outside of the big cities, everybody gives you a lot of space normally anyway. It's just city people that stand too close to you.
Well, you're sitting pretty, Alex, since you're out in the mountains. I'm sure that's a little easier to navigate.
I was out in the desert one time with Pearl in the middle of nowhere in Utah. We were looking at these big rock formations, and then this van came up, and these two German guys got out of it to ask me questions about where they were, and they got like right in my face, like a foot away. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm from England, right? I'm also a European, but I've got so used to this Western idea of that you have a lot of space around you anyway. And if you go up to somebody in the desert, you stand like 10 or 12 feet away. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. And it's kind of nice not to get too close to people without being invited.
I've got this thing where I do not like talking to close talkers. That was already the case before the pandemic. So in my case, I find that the social distancing has come naturally to me.
Yeah, my wife and I have joked that we prepared the better part of 3 decades for social distancing. But I was noticing, I watched a lot of movies on TCM this past weekend because they had the TCM Stay-at-Home Film Festival. In older movies, characters sit unnaturally close to each other when they have a conversation. Like chairs are way too close. And obviously they're doing that for framing purposes.
They're doing it for framing purposes, aren't they? To fit them all in the frame.
Yeah. They like to bring them in real close. It must be weird to be acting on some of those sets.
Because of the two those were the days of the two shot when you had, you put the camera on the tripod and you get the two actors as close to the camera as you can so they're both in frame. And yeah, you're right. It's there's some film textbooks talk about that, about how unnaturally close you ask actors to get for a good image.
At the early enough onset of cinema, I mean, when people were all crowding around the microphone, as was evident from those great scenes in
Singing in the Rain.
I mean, obviously there were technical reasons why people would be close, but yeah, even after that, I know what you're talking about. People were very scrunched together to suit a 1:3:3 aspect ratio or a 1:6:6. And Casey, we'll have to share with you the Charles Bronson cologne ad that I sent to Alex.
You did send it to me. That was well, I'll tell you that I went to Japan about 15 years ago, and we would come back from a long day of walking around, seeing the sights, sort of thing, and then just be utterly enchanted by the commercials that they would run on just primetime Japanese television. So the Charles Bronson and the Mansum cologne seemed just about right, if that's what a man is, that's what a man is.
And just for those who are listening, what the reason for us bringing up that ad is that Nobuhiko Obayashi, who was 82, passed away recently, and there was an obituary for him in the New York Times. And it was in reading his obituary that I saw that he was well known for this one particular ad that he did back in it was right after Once Upon a Time in the West, and he used Charles Bronson for it. And I found it, and I forwarded that along to friends, and it is worthwhile. It's a very engaging 2 minutes of Mandem.
Mandem, cologne.
And Obayashi, International Film Series customers will know him as the director of this very entertaining animated. Well, when I say animated, I just mean it's called Hausu, and it is it's like from 1977, and it translates as house, and it's been thought of as they refer to it as a sort of a demented horror movie that is really all over the place. And apparently he did that when his producers were asking him to do something like Jaws, where something threatens people, and his daughter said,
"What if the shark
furniture?
was a house?"
Yeah. What if the house was the shark? It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's highly, highly recommended. So if you want to give a parting toast to Obayashi, this would be a perfect time to check out House from 1977.
Especially if you like deerskin.
And that, yes. Like I said, Roger Daltrey must have had a couple coats missing after Deerskin and Mandem. He's got nothing left.
Back in the 1970s, I went to the Fox Venice in California to see a French film, which I think was kind of a thriller, a political thriller maybe. But the conceit of the film was that you never saw the actors. The whole movie was like reel-to-reel tapes turning, and telephones and telephone answering machines and presumably some surveillance and stuff. But you never saw the actors, and yet you saw like an 85, 90-minute thriller through these machines. Did either of you ever see that movie or know anything about it?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I do. The only thing I could think of is the documentary in which the director interviewed Marlene Dietrich, but she would not allow him to photograph her. So he took photos of her apartment, reconstructed it on a set, and then moved the camera around the set while he was playing the audio from the interview. That's Marlena.
No, this was a drama.
Okay.
This was like some kind of a thriller, but man, this was many years ago, and I just stuck in my head, but I never knew the filmmaker's name I can't remember the title. I was supposed to be pretty stoned when I saw it, but I remember that the concept of it was so interesting that they never saw the actors. And thinking about making a film in a time of lockdown when you can't get near the actors anyway is what
interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like a Godardian conceit almost, but I don't know.
Part of the conceit was that it was a kind of conventional thriller. There was a kind of an exciting plot of some kind, and which I've completely forgotten. But the actors were never seen. You heard their voices and you saw their reel-to-reels and their answering machines. Anyway, maybe somebody listening to this will be able to enlighten.
Well, Alex, I have a question for you then. So let's imagine that you're making films 30, 40 years in the future, and you want to do a movie set in this time period. Would you film people just masks and gloves? Would you film it so that they're in a anamorphic and they're standing on either side of the frames? Like, how would you visually convey social distancing of 2020?
Well, funny that you should ask that question. Because I've been talking to Pablo and Jason about the idea of trying to get a movie on in times of cholera. And I've got this script called Repo Man 2, but it's all kind of chasing and running and jumping and hiding and all that, like the original Repo Man. And also Pablo says that, and Jason also observes that if we were trying to do a crowdfunding, we couldn't raise the money to make Repo Man via crowdfund. So the fact that everybody's trapped right now and that none of the actors can go anywhere, I had this idea, what if the actors could record themselves? And what if they were all communicating back and forth through screens as the repo men of the future will be when they just hijack cars through the computer systems of the cars? A repo man doesn't need to go out in the street and with a wrench and a screwdriver anymore. He just she just logs on and starts taking over the computer systems of Teslas and driving them to the repo yard or the sheriff's substation. And And so now I'm trying to think of a way of telling that story purely through screens, so the actors never meet each other, and ideally they can film themselves.
Telecommuting Repo Man. That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
It does sound interesting. That's almost got
on yesterday.
That's got a neuromancer-y kind of William Gibson-y kind of vibe to it too.
Well, I got a lot of learning to do because I only know about science fiction from the 50s and 60s, so I got to catch up to the 80s at least.
Got to get within 30 years.
Well, I don't know about that, though. I mean, we're going backwards. Aren't we in the 50s again? I looked under my bed last night, and I'm sure I saw a Russian.
All right. Well, we've exceeded our normal time span here. So I would say that let's, actually, Alex, I know I'm going to be hopefully talking with you and Todd next week, right? And Michael Casey, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Michael, it's always a pleasure. I look forward to our next chat.
Absolutely. Me too, Alex.
Take care, gentlemen.
All right, you too.
Cheers.
I'm looking for the leather suit. Where can I get it?
Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.